YouTube. There you go, everybody. We're there. So welcome and good morning, everybody. We'll start with our karakia.
Whakataho ki te uru, whakatakaho ki te whanga, kia makina kina ki uta, kia mātautau ki tai, he hiakea te atakua, he tio, he huka, he hou, ti he maumai ora.
Thank you. Just a few quick notes as we head into the meeting. We are now live streaming, so we are across YouTube. So as such, the meeting will also be recorded so that it can be shared across the YouTube channel afterwards. The link for that, if anyone wants to watch it back for any reason, is on the front of the agenda. Welcome also to any members of the public who are joining us, not in the room, but via the live stream. Welcome to board members and to staff, and to those who are joining us in person in the meeting. And just a reminder to anyone that if there's any criticism or disrespect of elected members or staff during the discussion, we'll need to pause that and reset. Currently, there are apologies from Luana Swindales, who won't be able to join the meeting today. And we thought there were apologies from Howard, but we don't need them because it's in the room. So it's an apology for the apology.
I'm partly.
Sorry? Partly.
Okay. I'm still in that.
Well, it's good to have every part of you here today, Howard. Are there any declarations of interest from any members before we head into the agenda? And a reminder that if anything else, if any declarations are needed to be made, they can be made as we move through the agenda. Oh, goodness me. An apology for not asking for a mover and a second for the apologies. So can I have a mover for the apology from Luana? Tyrone said move, Kathy second. So I'll put the motion that we accept Luana's apology. All in favour? Any objections? There are none and no abstentions, so that is moved and passed. Declarations of interest we have covered. Confirmation of previous minutes, and we'll discuss if there are any matters other than corrections that we would look at those in minutes exchange at the latter end of today's agenda. But can I have a mover for the minutes? Moved by Lynn and seconder. So, seconded by Kathy. All those in favour?
No.
Any objections? Abstentions? The minutes are passed. Which gets us to public forum, and we welcome Sarah from Peninsula.
Where would you like me?
Up in the top chair, please.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So kia ora koutou.
Oh, you can sit right here.
Right here. Taking a back seat.
Yeah.
Kia ora koutou. Ko Sarah Wilson tōku ingoa. My name's Sarah Wilson. I'm the project leader for Pest Free Banks Peninsula. Quite a few faces are familiar to me, Tyrone and Kathy. And you joined us recently at our hui Rākaihautū, where all the 14 partners of this work got together, included councils, includes DOC, includes community and landowners right across the peninsula. So you've heard from us before, and really I'm just sort of the entree act. I'll introduce my other colleagues, Holly Hollander, who's our land liaison officer. We stole her from the depths of Akaroa, and she's our fabulous land liaison officer, and also Alex Albright, who is from the field team and he will speak to you about the Akaroa Pulse, or the Pulse of Akaroa, as we may call it. So essentially, I want to just really briefly outline 3 key things that we're doing currently that you may hear of from community members in this area. Firstly, we're doing an elimination of possums over here, over the Akaroa side. So everything that you could see today down this side of the beautiful valley and sea is already been treated for possums. We've done our initial knockdown, and that is with bait stations, Brodificum in bait stations. And we'll be following that up with traps and dogs and getting to 0. That will extend all the way through the landscape and up to a line, if you like, between Devotional and O'Kane's Bay. So that's the removal of possums. And Holly is working with all those landowners individually to get access agreements and have discussions with every single landowner about being on their property and their concerns and questions. So if you get approached by any member of the community wanting to know more about that, please do come and talk to myself or Holly or any of the team, and we'd be happy to answer any of your questions. Similarly, over in Kaitoriti, we're actually seeking to remove 6 different predator species, possums, and the 3 mustelids, of which there are a lot of weasels. Hedgehogs, which are our famous hedgehog dog, which you may have seen on many media outlets, who is now joined by her son, Bob. So we have 2 little terriers seeking hedgehogs, and feral cats as our other target species there. And we're only using trapping right across that peninsula. The third program that you may be familiar with is the eradication of feral goats. And Pam, the lovely Pam Richardson, is the chair of that committee. I don't think she's speaking to that today. But if you had questions about that work, particularly in Prices and McQueen's Valley currently, Pam is the best point of contact there on behalf of that committee. We are also targeting the control of feral pigs as part of that operation in Prices and McQueen's Valley, again working with landowners to control the populations of pigs. So those are some of the key operations we have running at the moment. And again, if you're approached by community members, do come and talk to us. We have information. We're happy to speak to anybody. Any questions about any of that?
Yeah, one from Tyrone, one from Michael.
Any problems with access to the properties? Are you getting total buy-in?
Holly?
Yes, total buy-in. Nobody said no, I won't let them. But there are obviously some landowners that don't want toxins on their properties, and we will just use the best tools possible aside from the toxins like the traps and etc. And we'll work with the landowners to use the tools that they are happy with. Yep.
Excellent.
So far, all good.
Good. So with the goats, so we're at 9,000 goats have been.
Right.
Is that right?
There you go.
Is that, okay, thanks.
Since 2018 and the removal from legal.
So roughly the number of people on Banks Peninsula and goats. That's quite extraordinary. Yeah.
That's an extraordinary piece of work, and Pam has been an extraordinary leader of that piece of work.
So with right person, right time. With the possums, so how do we? And sorry, I forgive my ignorance on this one, but like, so what you'll get it down to like a level that, I mean, it's not total elimination, is it?
Is.
Oh, sorry.
So we're aiming for elimination.
Yep.
So that means,
which is different from eradication, is that?
correct.
Is that how
We
it is?
can't
Yep.
say that there won't be any ever, like much like COVID, you get rid of it, but then there's reinfestation, which you
Yep.
then deal to. So the same kind of
So
principle.
that was going to be my question, I guess. Possums are very mobile, like so what? How do we keep them out of the wild side, as it were?
Good question. So yes, and they become more mobile as you remove their numbers because they go looking for mates. So they can travel up to 50 kilometres, in fact.
Wow.
That's the most that one has ever been tracked. So that's right across the peninsula. So one of the things that we have been doing is creating a thing called the Bay Barrier, which is a barrier of traps, AT220s, which are a self-resetting trap, and a sort of and we've been running those along roadways. You may have seen them. What's the name of that road, Holly?
O'Kane's Bay Road.
O'Kane's Bay Road. Along there, for example, and a sort of effectively a network of traps, which sucks animals in from both directions. But the idea is that it would become a movable barrier that mostly keeps out possums, and that when we discover a possum that's made its way through the network, then we target that with a dog,
Right.
a hunter and a dog.
So it's like a big chain that just slowly moves towards Christchurch.
Correct.
effectively. Yeah.
Correct. So
Oh, that's
rather than
quite
build a fence, which is
Fascinating.
permanent, we have a virtual fence
Wow.
which we can move
Ah,
as we track through the landscape.
thank you.
Michael.
Just a quickie. I live up by Stanley Park, and I know you did some work around that area
Mhm.
some months back. when that was over, I still saw possums.
Absolutely.
You know,
So,
juveniles, still small ones.
Yep.
Around, so probably still one of them.
Alex might speak to that just in a moment in terms of the Akaroa focused work that we did, because we did a pulse last year. We're going to do another pulse this year, which Alex will speak to. And that's kind of getting the community familiar with the tools. That's actually not eliminating the possums. We will get to that point, but the way we work here in this built up area is a little different, obviously.
Cool. Now, I'm aware that we've gone to the end of time.
Thank you.
But thank you very much, both for the presentation this morning, but also for the ongoing work that you're doing.
Thank you very much.
Fantastic.
It is brilliant.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alex,
Thanks,
I'll
Ruben.
get you to speak to the Akaroa Pulse.
Kia ora, my name's Alex. I'm a field team member with Pest-Free Banks Peninsula. Been working there 2 years now, and we're just starting to really get into it, which is great to see. Yes, the Akaroa Pulse. So the farming community around the periphery of Akaroa has its own challenges, but Akaroa itself has quite a lot of challenges in itself, because it has a lot of landowners, a lot of small parcels. It's quite a tricky challenge to approach, hence why we are slowly integrating ourselves into it before the project really sweeps around into this area. To do that, we're going to start off with some live capture traps, some cage trapping. So about 120 cage traps will be going out into the community over a 3-week period, just to set live for a week pre-feeding, and then to go live for 2 weeks and try and remove some of these possums. There are some large land parcels in Akaroa that are heavily forested, Garden of Tāne, Stanley Park, the Orp Hill. So we're going to concentrate our efforts in those areas to begin with, and we're going to integrate into the housing areas as well. We're working closely with the school to try and get the cages out into backyards. So working with the kids, they're really engaged and really excited about the idea of hunting possums. So getting them excited helps get their parents excited, helps us move into the community a lot easier.
The reason why we use the live captured cages is because of the domestic cats in the township. Very sensitive. We need to be very careful. We need to identify the prey, and if there's any domestic cats caught in those cages, we just let them go. Alex will be out every morning checking those cages really early, and if there's any cats in there, then we just let them go. So that's why we use live capture through the township.
Yeah, we make it. Sorry.
Yeah, I've got a little Burmese, and make sure she's got a foul around in it.
Yeah, good one.
Okay,
Yeah.
thanks, Nigel. I'll try not to get it.
Appreciate that.
Maybe you should post an ad advising people to put bells on their cats so they can identify the feral.
So we have a bit of a strategy with communication in the Akaroa Mail. So we're going to do 3 installations into the Akaroa Mail, one prior to the operation, one during and one afterwards, with results and whatnot. And that last one is where we'll recommend the management of cats.
Sorry, hi, I'm Lynn from Wairua. What do you recommend is the management of cats? So is it just the collar, or is there, and then there's the chip? But what if you, like, I know some people don't like their cats to wear collars, and they may have a chip, but that's not easily seen in the field.
Yeah.
So what's the
Keeping your cat indoors at night is a big one.
Yep.
Because they roam extensively.
Yeah,
It's quite a tricky one. Do you guys have any other suggestions?
Well, people don't like the collars because they get them caught in the trees and they get hang themselves up. So, but those chipping and the collars is great and helpful for us, because of, obviously if we see a cat in there, it's got a collar, we'll let it go. So if there is a cat in there, firstly we'll need to identify if it's a domestic cat or it's a feral cat. And if we're unsure, we'll just let it go. So yeah, and the other thing is with the microchips, we can't rely on either collars or microchips because not everybody has those.
okay? So if it's uncertain, you'd let it go.
Yeah.
And Nigel will give you his address so you know where to go.
Not too many
Yeah.
pure Burmese around though.
The bait we use in those live captures are not attractive to cats, but it doesn't stop them from going in.
That's right.
It's not a protein-based lure, so.
Yeah, yeah.
So we've gotten probably to the end of our 5, slightly over there. But thank you very much.
That's right. I just squeeze it in.
And, yeah, it's excellent to get as much in as we did.
Yeah.
And I'm sure we'll hear more from all of you. with
Yes,
this
we'll keep coming
We're
back.
we're
with
happy to keep
updates.
reporting into you.
Yes.
Okay.
So,
Appreciate the time.
Great, thank you.
Yes. See you at the festival.
Yeah, not before.
an editorial from Nigel. So we would now invite Pam, who is going to speak with us around rural roading.
Right, I'm sorry about that. That was my iPad that I didn't realise was going to ring in here, but I burnt my phone and logged in totally at the weekend, so disaster.
The real definition of a rural zone.
It is.
Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, I've put these overheads together, explained quite carefully, seeing I've only got 5 minutes. I am an old community board chair. I spent 4 terms on the community board, been very involved with Federated Farmers, North Canterbury Federated Farmers, was president of North Canterbury from 2000 to 2004. So today it's really North Canterbury Federated Farmers, or the Banks Peninsula branch of Federated Farmers that I'm talking about. So roading has always been a high focus for us in Banks Peninsula, and it quite clearly all those things on what I've got up here on the board about the critical lifeline. That's the only way we've got to get around. On the key statistics, I would have thought that we might have seen it acknowledged on here somewhere, that you might have had that it was a major asset, and on page 12. The importance of quality and timely maintenance of roads associated with infrastructure and the need to include a measurement of success in relation to roads, that we would like to have seen that in there. I know the plan is closed, it's a final document, but these are the things, the questions that we're asking about our roading infrastructure. To that end, we have over several years have been talking, well, since 2021, have been talking with the City Council about a rural forum. And that came about, as you might remember, of a land drainage rate that came in and the board didn't know about it. No one knew about it. The councillors obviously knew little about it either. So the idea of a rural forum was they had no surprise policy. And that's what's said in quite a bit of my correspondence that I've got, and I've got some of that here for you today. And we continue to request that. And we did have that, or North Canterbury Federated Farmers had that in their long-term plan submission. So I'll leave it there at that. The overheads explain the situation. So it's about landowners getting no surprises, and there are a whole lot of things, a whole range of things. It's a very, very detailed vision plan. If you could achieve that in 2 years, or start the journey on some of them in 2 years. So it's, I'm just suggesting maybe a way to resolve it is to run all of those things through a rural forum before you go to rural landowners.
Thank you, Pam. I do remember in our last, and I'm not sure if anyone's got any other questions, but in our last community board plan, did we have something around a standard for unsealed roads? It's one of our, which is not in this one, but I seem to remember we had a briefing that there had been something good had happened in that space, but I can't recall off the top of my head what it was.
There's nothing in there about rural, no standards. Yeah, just understanding the current.
Right, pull that stuff together. Yeah.
Yeah, because I thought it was
things floating around.
Yeah, there was something good that did come off and haven't had.
Well, the budget was increased.
Yes.
Significantly.
It's worth noting that all the unsealed roads in Christchurch City are in Banks Peninsula, and there's about 350 k's worth. So
Yes.
and we know that they are extremely vulnerable. So we're certainly extremely mindful of them.
So look, we'd like to be involved.
Yep.
And understand the issues with you when you're doing the work on those roads.
Yep. No, good. Thank you.
Very much. Thanks. Now we do have in the agenda that Harry Stronach was going to come to us, and he has a late apology. He's been taken out of town on business, but in the interim, Chris McGill was going to speak to us, and there is a slot as a result of Harry's cancellation. So Chris, if you want us at the table to discuss election signage, I understand.
Not in all. My question to you is about signage. Coming home from Central yesterday, I came across 3 along the road between Timaru and between Barry's Bay and Duvershell. There's a lovely big orange sign there. And my understanding is that nothing can go up before the 12th of August, which is 9 weeks out from the general election. New Zealand election rules say 9 weeks, but say check with your council. Our council has nothing about the 2023 election on it, but the 2022 election specifically says 9 weeks. And there is noted in here, if I can bring it up, make it big enough so I can see it, that where it is, it says it for in terms of Waka Kotahi, elections signage must be located at least 100 metres from an intersection, bends and highways, or other signage on highways with a speed limit of 70k, 60 there. So my question to you is, what is the story? Why is it there? And what is the council going to do about it? Because I could do something about it, but I'm not allowed to do that. So that's my question to community board.
Yeah, it's a really good question, and I think if we raise this under members exchange at the end of the meeting, there may be a couple of actions because there's kind of 2 entities that could clarify that with.
Yeah.
It is the 12th of June today, and the 12th of August, 2 months away, is the time that signage is allowed to go up, and none of us can complain because we're in election mode. But
Is it on the highway?
I think it's in private land, but it's on a corner and it's in an intersection.
I saw one coming over this morning. I saw that. I'm not sure if that's the same one you're
An Act one.
just before devotional.
Yeah, it's over the, well, it's right there as you come up the hill. It's like, the sun's risen in the paddock.
One
Yeah, it doesn't matter
coming up.
They had the
By
same
Remo as well.
meeting, and all the representatives had to remove them.
Yeah.
City Council notified all representatives that they had to remove them until the appropriate time. So we need to do exactly the same.
So I don't need to send anything into the council.
It would probably help if you did too,
Okay.
but I think we can, as a board, we can ask for some clarification on it because I know that it's an issue across New Zealand and across Christchurch.
Yeah. Okay.
So if you do, you can CC us in.
Yeah.
That would be helpful.
Let me know.
That's kind of almost.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And
for raising
CC in community
Yeah.
board members or the
Yeah. so
whole
just-
thing.
Yeah. Or
Just you and I, John.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris.
Thank you.
Fix why Remo too.
Yeah.
Why Remo too.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Okay, so we now move into deputations by appointment. And I would like to welcome Suki to the table. Just, we're just loading up your presentation there, Suki, so you can use this time to set the table.
Yeah, I'll just have to raise my hand when I want the slides changed. I don't know. I don't think that's going to work with a PDF file.
Okay.
I sent you a PDF because last time the PowerPoint didn't work. So this time I sent you the PDF file.
Yeah, we'll just briefly adjourn the meeting for a couple of minutes while we just resolve some technical issues so that everything works for everybody.
We off the internet.
to go. Okay, so we can recommence our meeting, and is that what you're expecting? Yeah, excellent. Welcome. So we have 10 minutes and to continue our conversation. So welcome and take it away.
Right, well, thank you very much for having us all here again. Just like to introduce myself, Suki Thompson from the Robinsons Bay Residents and Ratepayers Association, Annette Moore, Fiona Turner, also from Robinsons Bay, and we have apologies today from Doig Smith and Craig Church, who have hoped to come but are unwell. So we're here to once again discuss the outstanding opportunity to create a sawmill heritage reserve in Robinsons Bay. We hope to limit our talk now to 5 minutes so that we can have some discussions with you. So next slide, please. So just a very quick recap. We're talking about this area in Robinsons Bay, where the first sawmill in Canterbury was erected, both a cottage, which is currently owned by an independent family trust, and the land associated with the sawmill, which is now owned by the Council for the Wastewater Project. The desire to create a reserve there has been present in the community since the 1980s. And it's a really significant site. It features in all of these history books about Banks Peninsula. The Jubilee book in 1900 has a whole section on the importance of this sawmill. I'd now just like to take you to your community reference group that was set up after the council made its decision in 2020 to go with the Inner Harbour Bays solution for the wastewater irrigation, instructed the community board to set up a reference group. The reference group produced a series of recommendations, and one of them was that the sawmill heritage and archaeological features were subdivided and fenced from the wastewater scheme and gifted to a community trust. And another was that the tramway embankment should be kept free of planting. So before I go on to talk a bit more about that, just a quick update on where we're at in the community with the Pātaka cottage. So first of all, that's going through the process of getting its Heritage New Zealand listing. It is in the district plan. Submissions just closed for the listing proposal, and the Heritage New Zealand's recommending it be listed. The Robinsons Bay Ratepayers Association is proceeding to negotiate with the family about the gifting of the cottage. We were disappointed that the staff report did not support gifting the land, but it did talk about leasing the land, and we cannot afford to lose the opportunity to take over that cottage. So we're in the early stages of drafting an MOU with the trust. Now, the other big thing that's happened since we were last with you is the council has now lodged that wastewater consent. We have got a copy of that through the Lagoima process. We are very concerned that the application has not requested public notification. We have written to both ECAN and CCC requesting public notification. This is a critical public infrastructure project costing an enormous amount of money. There are potential for effects well beyond the immediate neighbours, and their heritage concerns are just an example of those wider effects. So just moving on to that report from the staff, really our concerns are there's no concept of a heritage area in that resource consent application. And most importantly, the area that we've got earmarked for the reserve, you see it's got that blue cross hatching on it. That says that it's earmarked for irrigation. Now, the consent isn't actually to irrigate it at this stage, but as the staff report makes clear, it's kind of a buffer for future irrigation. And there's a little insufficient around the Williams cottage, which is that upper orange square. The tramway's planted over. Now, it says in there we need this land for the future, but we're saying, no, you've got lots of other options. You could get other land. Or most importantly, you could reduce the inflow and the I&I, the inflow and stormwater incursion a lot more than you are, because the council offered it reduced to be only 20% of total flow, whereas the resource consent is bringing it down by 20%. And given that it's 60% of the overall flow, there's a big gap there. So what we're seeking from you as the community board is to support your community reference group's recommendations that the heritage area is fenced off and under community management, and that you're supporting public notification of the wastewater consent application so that the consent authority can hear the community's views and apply appropriate conditions to the consent. So yeah, we're we'd like to have a discussion with you now, and we have some questions for you, and I expect you have some for us.
Yeah, just before we get to those questions, and just because there is a consenting process happening, probably need to just get some advice around what would and wouldn't be appropriate for the board to get involved in discussion wise at this point of the process, because the board can't actively involved in discussions that might interfere with that consenting process. So any advice of questions or best steps for the board to take from here?
The board, excuse me, Mr. Chair, now that the consent is lodged, the board cannot involve itself in the statutory process of the consent.
Okay.
Does that mean that you can't ask for it to be publicly notified? Well, I just like to record, I think that's absolutely disgraceful, because you need to be supporting your community here. This is a huge, important infrastructure project costing $75 million.
Yeah.
And impacting the whole of your community from Akaroa right across to Robinson's Bay. And that application has not been, I mean, it's, as far as we know, gone to ECAN, but there's been nothing put out in the public domain about whether or not it is to be notified.
I don't think that, my understanding is that there hasn't been a determination on that at this point as to whether from ECAN as to whether it needs to be publicly notified or not. So that may still be something that happens, but because it's part of the consenting process, it's the board's unable to get involved in advocating for or against that.
So you're saying, oh, sorry, Sophie, so it still may or may not be publicly notified, we don't know.
It's been lodged with the Environment Canterbury,
Right.
and they make a decision on whether it's to be publicly notified or what they call a
Like a limited notification?
yes.
Yeah.
And then as Suki knows, that council have said they're quite open to being notified to when there's no interest in a particular area around consent, but it is ultimately ECAN's decision.
Right.
Can I just a question? I'm sorry to eat up at your time, and I hope this is put on pause on your time slot. But I was involved in the hearing panel, and I was involved with the working parties just before and the reference group afterwards. When we did the consent for the devotionals one, they actually made a point of saying that they were going to have limited notification as a part of that hearing process, and nothing in the hearing process around the Akaroa wastewater event mentioned anything about the notification process. So they actually made a point of saying limited notification, and that's it just seems a bit odd that there's not mentioned one and mentioned in the other. That's all. Just another question aside. Community gardens. We had a submission about community gardens. Where did you, if you people were to be successful, how do you see that relationship with the community garden?
Yeah, I mean, we've replied to that person who's present here at the moment to say there is no issue with having a community garden as part of the heritage reserve. It would fit in very well. The Williams family gardened there for many years. We know where the gardens were, their orchards. You know, there were orchards there. There still are walnut trees there. So that's on an incompatible use with a heritage reserve. It's a compatible use.
Okay, so. Sure. So we've got a few minutes left, but obviously it's a slightly delicate situation that we're in as far as I know what can and can't be asked or discussed because of the consenting process. But are there any other questions from the board, or are there any other points from any of your groups around?
Well, I mean, you know, we've been delayed on this. feels like a snookering operation here. So we're delayed to the point where we couldn't talk about it because we couldn't talk about it because we didn't have a staff report. And now we have a staff report that there's a resource consent, so now we can't talk about it. The point is, does this board support or not support the concept of a heritage sawmill heritage reserve in Robinson's Bay that is under community management? And that's the question we were putting to you right from the outset. And that's the one that we would like an answer to.
Yeah, and I think
this board's been always supportive of that house being preserved, and it's been discussed with the council, and they've been supportive, but can't do anything at the moment.
Yeah, as I said, it's about moving through a sequence of events, but I think is it fair to say that in principle, the board supports the principle of that kind of initiative, but the detail of it needs to come once the consenting process is completed, I appreciate that it's a slow process and that's potentially very frustrating, but it is a process and we do have to work within that process to take the steps through it, and then at the end I think that there is consensus from the board that would be the kind of outcome that the board would be happy with as well, but just that it is a slower process than anyone would potentially want.
Well, can I ask for that to be recorded then, that there is support for a heritage reserve in Robinson's Bay?
Sorry?
Can I ask for that to be recorded in the minutes, what you just said, that there is support for a heritage reserve in Robinson's Bay?
There's a difference between reserve and preservation of historic building.
There's a big
difference.
The building is us. The building is not to do with the council. We are acquiring that building. It's for the sites around it, and the area that we've presented to the board previously. Does the board support the heritage area there under community management? That is the question.
Yeah, perfect. And that was perfectly timed because that was about on the end of deputation, but I think it would need to be the entire board. So do we need to move and second that, or we can just see if, I guess, by what, show of hands?
Well, hang on, that's a pretty vague statement. A reserve could be 4,000 hectares, or it could be a hectare, so we need to be specified what we're actually voting on.
We're willing to work with the community to get the outcome that they want, right? Like, so, I mean, it's
but we can't speak to the details.
Yeah.
As long as that's put in there, I would be comfortable
to
say that, as long as, support the idea, but the details need to be sorted out.
And Nigel, was that part of the community group recommendations, that reserve section?
Oh, yeah, the wording is quite clear, very clear.
So which means that
that was a reference group.
So then, if we were to tidy that up in a simple sentence or paragraph, there's something along the lines that the Peninsula Community Board supports in principle a community reserve for the residents of Robinson's Bay as part of
wastewater
program.
Can I also say, I don't personally don't want to speak too much because I don't want to compromise any of the process that might,
I think that's fair.
I don't want to put this at jeopardy by not following due process. So I personally want to say I would support that, but details that need to be sorted out. Do you understand that?
Well, sort of, but if it's not publicly notified, we won't have any opportunity for input. So, it's pretty important that this thing gets publicly notified, or none of these details will be sorted out. And at the moment, the site that we have asked to be set aside to become a community managed area is earmarked for irrigation. That needs to be knocked out, and so does having planting right against that cottage.
Just to clarify that, I don't actually think that site is earmarked for future irrigation.
Well, that's what's on the map that we in the report.
The pink parts of the map are not the blue hash.
Yeah, so the blue.
But rather than getting into that level of detail here and now, especially because where we are with time, I think if we come back to that sentence and finding a sentence or a statement that the board are comfortable with that characterises our position without compromising, as Lynn has pointed out, any of the consenting process or the future prospects for the development or the community involvement in their site, then it would be something around that the board in principle supports a future use for community engagement with, or, you know, a community access to the sawmill site. And so that if we're comfortable that we can come up with a sentence like that, that addresses both those concerns, your concern and our concern, that we don't interfere with the process.
Can we please use the term sawmill heritage area? The sawmill site itself is just a tiny patch.
Sure.
And also the two key things are, this is for, you know, the heritage of Canterbury. This is not just a Robinson's Bay thing, it's the heritage of Canterbury, and it's about community management of the site.
Yeah.
How long is the process of getting the heritage listing? Like how far along?
Well, the heritage listing is just on the cottage itself. The cottage is in the part that we're talking about. The heritage listing should be on, I think, in the next couple of months. They finish doing their submissions. But that's on the cottage side, not on the wastewater side.
Decision on the fly, right? Like, I mean, it's not everyone's across all the detail.
Yeah.
Right? So we're not, that's not what we do, in my view.
So
I think if you go back to your community reference group statement, that has the wording that you need.
if we just, sorry, if we can just pause here, I can have a quick check with staff.
Heritage category.
Kathy, it's on the cottage, it's not on the council. There's nothing really to do with the council now.
Category 2 is on that building.
I was up to my neck in this the last round.
Visited and walked up by
Yeah,
that.
really sucked up a lot of
And
money.
you'll know that there is enormous divergence of opinions and views.
I have to talk to the council. the
Even
land
spoke to
people
some.
want to
You just got to let it go through.
How much more is it?
Orange area do
And then
you
I don't understand.
Sorry, show me what.
that orange area there, that's a historic site
I
there.
didn't notice.
I'm just going to say
No,
that.
and
maybe
that,
we're making
and that,
rounds.
and
But I just want to know
we
why the
sent
park area
reports to the
panel
council
came
before
up
at
with, have
previous
you making a
meetings.
statement about?
That's
So-
the
so how much do you want to-
cottage.
how much-
We're
And this
talking
one-
about all the green area and that,
Well, that's outside
and
of our.
it to be
Right,
slightly
this is the
wider
pen thing, right?
around this
So what-
cottage,
what
so
is it?
coming just down here, so it's none of the pink area where they're planning to irrigate it.
So you want that whole area there as a reserve?
Yeah.
So it's nothing to do with it.
Okay,
It's
so
about 3.5
As a heritage.
I would be happy to, like,
Heritage
I would be happy to,
Not just a reserve.
to contact ECAN and
And we
say that
want
we,
it to be
but
gifted.
that might be outside the statutory process, right? I'd be more than comfortable with that.
Heritage.
I think I need to.
It's problematic.
We need to contact ECAN, get their understanding first before we make a statement.
Have we got a?
Well, if it's within the bounds of statutory,
I think this is the council thing, isn't it? I don't know.
within the bounds of the statutory framework, we can't be just going willy-nilly
Yes.
demanding things and asking for things that are outside of our remit. If we're just like, yeah.
okay, so thank you for bearing with me. So just to wrap that deputation up and to summarise what I see as the position of the board, and I will seek the board's agreement or otherwise on this, but that we could say that the board agreed in principle to support the concept of future community management of the Sawmill Heritage Site at 11 Sawmill Road, Robinson's Bay. So if the board are happy with that as a statement today from the board in respect of Suki's deputation today and previous deputations, then that would be, I think that would be a good.
Can you read it again, please?
Yeah, sure. So the board agreed in principle to support the concept of future community management of the Sawmill Heritage Site at 11 Sawmill Road, Robinson's Bay.
So agree in principle, we agree in principle,
Yeah.
sort of thing. Oh, yeah, okay, yep.
So it's just, how does the board?
Does it need then to have a connection to the reference group that came out of the reference group as
I think
an accepted
I
part of
I don't think that it does. I think that it's
it? Okay.
strong enough on time.
Ruben, can I just ask that you change that to Sawmill Heritage Area as presented by the Robinson's Bay Ratepayers Association, because the site, that's, you know, I want to be clear about what we're actually talking about here, not just the little piece where the sawmill was, but the
Yeah,
area that we.
I think probably what's best is hearing you on the changing it to the whole Sawmill Heritage area rather than site. But I think what's probably important is that whatever we agree as a board, today as the statement isn't hinged to or isn't attached to any one group or organisation, because it needs to be an umbrella statement for the area rather than attributing it to a particular group, because that could be seen to be something that might go around that might work. But if everybody's happy with the statement, the board agrees in principle to support the concept of future community management of the Sawmill Heritage Area at 11 Sawmill Road, Robinsons Bay.
Can I ask a question, Mr. Chair, please? Wouldn't it be better to consider a decision like that in conjunction with the agenda item note?
It's not a decision, it's just
right. Right. Oh, okay. So, okay.
Yeah. Would the statement at any stage would be considered as interfering with the consenting process?
No.
Because they just want support.
That's not a decision, it's just a statement that the board makes at the end of the deputation.
That's as much as we can do.
Yeah.
And sorry, Mr. Chair, through you, can I just address it? So Liz, the board is by statutory, because of the statutory framework, the board is essentially forbidden from interfering, which also omits a request to make it publicly notified.
Yes.
Yeah. Right.
Because you will then the influence on the process.
Right.
And also that'd be complete to traditional review if you interfere.
However, based on other consents that have happened around the peninsula that were initially not publicly notified, but eventually became publicly notified, I think. I probably got that wrong, but like it's not, there is an appeals process after the consent is issued, right? As I understand it. So if it's not publicly notified, the board can then appeal. The board can't. Council might be able to appeal though. The board can request that council appeals. Like there is an opening for an appeal.
Organisation to
There's
appeal.
no for an appeal.
Okay.
Yeah.
Who does that appeal?
Okay, that's cool.
Okay, so on that basis, are we happy to move as a board? Now, do we want to? We can move.
Have a mover and a second. I can move it.
So Nigel wants to move that statement. Does somebody want to second it?
Yep.
Lynn? All those in favour?
All right.
Any
Comfortable
against?
with that?
Any abstentions? Excellent. Okay, so that will appear in the minutes. Thank you once again for bringing that to us, and for not relenting. And we will keep it in view.
I can leave Suki, you've already written to ECAN.
A letter has gone, I know, from the Friends of Banks Peninsula, one's going from Robinsons Bay Ratepayers Association shortly. I believe the Civic Trust are discussing it today. The concern is that I don't think you can appeal the notification decision. If it's not publicly notified, you can, but if you haven't been a party, you can't place an appeal. You have to have been a submitter. So if it's not publicly notified, you can't be a submitter. So you can't be part of the appeals process. It shuts the public out permanently if this is not publicly notified.
Yeah, I know that there was.
Decision. It is not council decision. It's environment.
I've got a contact for you. That's right. I can talk to you later.
Okay.
Thanks, Lynn.
Thank you very much for coming in.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. Nice.
Okay, so we now move to presentation of petitions, of which there were none. So we move to correspondence, which is item 7 on page 15. And Liz, are you presenting this? Yeah, that's good. Thank you.
That recommendation by community governance group, that was aspirational recommendation.
Sorry. What's that?
Yeah. So those recommendations were aspirational.
No, they were.
Okay, welcome Liz.
I'll talk to you later about set up after, I'll talk to you about that whole hearings process and it's quite involved.
Okay, correspondence. What have we got?
You'll recall the board wrote to the ministers of climate change and tourism and there's a third minister.
Transport.
Transport, thank you.
We haven't heard back from him.
Has he still got a job?
And the letter was on your last hearing report last month. So these are the replies that we have received from two ministers.
It's just interesting, transport.
Thank you.
Is he still the minister?
Who?
Michael Wood, have they dumped him yet?
He's been stood down.
We've got
Over his years.
2 letters from 2 ministers.
Yes.
Yeah.
Pretty good going.
All right. So have people had an opportunity to have a read of both of those? One takes a little longer than the other.
I have. One of them was great.
So I'm asking the board to receive the correspondence.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, so does somebody want to, we need to move in second now, don't we? Kathy, was that you saying that you'd like to move that? That we receive these letters?
Yep.
Yeah, and someone to second?
Oh.
Excellent. Excellent. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? No. Great. Done.
So I had a question. Can I still ask a question? Are we able to publish the letter in the community board newsletter?
It's your newsletter.
Good.
Yeah.
All right.
We're allowed to
You
share
could
that.
refer to it and put a link onto the agenda.
Okay.
Because it wasn't.
I'm specifically referring to the one from Penny Henry.
Yeah.
The reference to the destination matter.
It's public because it's in the agenda, right? So we can also share it across our Facebook pages.
Correct.
And we can also include it in.
And ministers,
You could have no one.
Questions around.
yes, Mr. Chair, you could put both letters in the newsletter.
Yes.
I just wonder why you were particularly.
Well, there's a bit more to digest in one than the other, it would be fair to say, but there's a lot to digest in the fact that there's more to digest in one than the other too. So yes, sharing both might be beneficial. So yeah, I think sharing those as part of or sharing a link to those as part of the newsletter is a good idea, but also individual members being able to share those either via email or Facebook posts, absolutely. And we are looking to.
However, Mr. Chair, I would suggest if you're going to share the replies, perhaps the original letter needs to be referred to as well.
But we have the whole loop.
Yeah.
So the community can see.
The trail of communication, yes.
Yeah.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Moving to Reserve Committee meeting minutes. Item 8.
Yes, Mr. Chair and board members, we have now in this batch received the final triennial minute on the ones that had their meetings a bit later in the year. So this is the final lot of appointments that you need to do.
Okay.
Otherwise, I'll take the report as read.
Excellent. Yeah, I especially like noting that one of the meetings took 12 minutes.
Oh.
Wow.
Who shared that? Okay.
So is that one of the community boards out there that I'm aware of?
Uncommon for any meeting of that Peninsula.
It's all about efficiency.
Depends where the wine's involved.
So does somebody want to move that we accept, receive the minutes of the Reserve Committee meeting, of the Reserve Committee and the appointments as detailed across pages 19 and 20. Lynn said yes. So Lynn is moving it. Does somebody want to second it?
Okay.
Nigel. All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? Any abstentions? That is passed. We now move to
Great committees. Some great committees out there as well.
so many of them. So we now skip ahead to page 45. The Akaroa Museum Advisory Committee and Head-to-Head Walkway. appointments. Now, this, we're doing this at the end, are we?
Board members, I'd like to take the report as read.
Yep.
Just to be assured, there is a public excluded attachment. We need to disappear. No, public meeting. We're not going to public excluded unless there are questions on the public excluded document.
Yes. So I've noted that there's one question at the table, but there may be others. I guess if people have questions that they would prefer to ask in public excluded, then they probably need to indicate that before they ask their question.
Yes, you could only go into public excluded if your question was related to the public excluded attachment.
Sure. Yeah. So Clara, you had a question.
I did. Sorry. Yep. Just on to 1D. Consider the appointment of the head-to-head working party chairperson. Can we consider that in this meeting and appoint if we've got a, we can?
Yes, you can.
Yep.
Yes, or there are two options you can do: appoint today, or you could wait till the working party meets and then wait for a recommendation from them for a chairperson. It is completely up to the board.
And I'd be happy to appoint today for a person if they were, pending their acceptance.
Oh, I thought we'd wait for the working group.
Your option's faster, right?
My option's faster, it's quicker, it's cleaner, it gets things moving, which is what ultimately the community desire is.
Yeah.
Entirely depending on, I've got a recommendation.
I did actually walk the head-to-head from Diamond Harbour to Charters Bay. Took me 3 hours and I got lost 4 times. Silence is absolutely shocking. Just as a side note.
Well, that's why we need to move quickly.
How were the toilets?
Proven.
Hey?
Any toilets, sorry.
Okay, so suggestion from Tyrone was that the board appoint a chairperson from the existing working party at this meeting today, which
So what you need to ask yourself is, do you have enough information about all the members of the head-to-head working party and the decision today?
I
Or it's politically motivated.
personally don't feel
There's
that
conflict in the
other members may know more than me. Tyrone probably knows more than anybody on where that group's at.
I could throw it out there and you can decide whether or not you can vote it down if you like.
Yeah.
Would that be wise in the
Yeah, that's the potential here.
Reputational risk,
Yeah, it doesn't come back.
All right, okay, I'll park it. That's fine.
Sorry, I understand entirely what you're wanting to do.
Yeah. Totally.
That's all right.
So then the alternative would be that the board waits for a
recommendation from the working party.
Yeah.
As we have not had the working party together, so we don't know exactly who the representatives.
Does the working party need to have a formal meeting to make a
They
recommendation?
there is a meeting date booked for the head-to-head working party.
6th of July, I think, or something like that, isn't it?
Yes, it's in July.
And we're busy organising, lining up all of the members, the
Yes, we don't know
representatives,
who.
the representatives from the from all of those organisations. So
We'll let her run it, of course.
So if we come back to the recommendation as it is in the agenda, that we appoint Pam Richardson as the community representative to the Crocodile Museum, appoint the following community board representatives being Nigel Harrison and Lisa Hussain to the Crocodile Museum Advisory Committee, and appoint Tyrone Fields, Kathy Lumwood and Luana Swinbells to the head-to-head working party, and consider the appointment. Or I guess we don't consider the appointment, I guess wait to hear from the working party for a recommendation for a chair for the head-to-head working group.
Cool.
that's good.
Does somebody want to move that?
Yep.
Tyrone moves, somebody second, Nigel, all those in favour?
Yeah.
Any against?
What was B changed to? We're just waiting for the head-to-head.
We're going to wait for a recommendation from the.
You're going to request.
Oh, okay.
Request them to.
Okay, no, that's fine.
And it's the head-to-head walkway working party is
No,
the actual name of the.
Walkways? Is it called? No, just walkway.
Walkway.
Okay,
Mm.
that is item 9. We now move to item 10, which is discretionary response funding applications. And I think we have Philippa and Trish joining us via
Sorry.
Zoom. 3 applications here being it's an arts festival. Oh, yes. Sorry. Just briefly, before we move on to this point, I should congratulate Pam.
Oh.
A long time in favour of.
And we now move to the discretionary response fund applications and welcome Trisha and Philippa.
Good morning, everyone. Can you hear us okay?
Perfectly.
Yeah. Okay, excellent. I've got Trisha here today as well, Trisha and me. There are 3 applications in front of you for a total of $5,500 recommendations, and I will take it, we've read the applications, and are there any questions?
I have one question, which is similar. Did you have one too?
I will after you.
Yeah, similar to the question that we raised at the most recent DRF consideration at a community board meeting was around seeing the balance that we've got left in DRF and seeing the total of the asks, whether the board felt compelled to put more towards one, some, or all of these applications.
Right, well, the recommendation, you've got the rationale for each of the recommendations. The amounts that you can allocate for these projects is up to the requested amount. And so that should answer your question. Any funds remaining in the balance will be carried forward to next year and will be added to the discretionary response fund that can be fund budget. So you're not going to lose the funds, any funds that are remaining. But as far as the recommendations are concerned, you can allocate up to the requested amount.
Yeah, I agree with you to increase the amount. I think there is funding allocation, and given the inflation rate next year, it might go up and it might not make those groups able to do what they want to do this year. So
there is the argument, just because you've got the money, you don't have to go spend it. We're not like the government. You're basically trying to be fiscally responsible in this board.
Yeah, I'm just going to jump to Lynn too, because you had a question.
Oh, I just wondered when that end of that budget is 2023. When does the next?
The end of our financial year is 30th of June. So the new financial year starts in July.
Okay. So yes, this is the last time you get to spend that money this year.
Yeah,
it will carry on.
It will carry on.
Yeah.
Second question that I had. So I see that the first 2, so Littleton Arts and Little Recreation Centre, have about 2/3 that has been recommended of the amount requested. Should we make that consistent across the board potentially, and have all 3 maybe have 2/3 of the requested amount? Just putting it forward.
Yeah, so bump the County Valley one up by about 1,500 more.
Just before we do that, how much do we get in July? Do we get another funding, or we just transfer over?
It depends what we've assigned in our What's that other thing?
Strengthening Communities Fund. So come 1 July, you get just under $200,000 for your entire Strengthening Communities Fund, which is closed and staff are assessing applications at the moment. And then whatever you don't allocate out of that 199 odd thousand is then used for your DRF.
Oh, okay. So
and generally, so generally you keep back anywhere between 20 to 30,000 from your strengthening communities on average. That's what you've done. And then any carry forward from the previous year is added to that.
Yeah.
Now, can I also say that in response to Lynn's comment about, why not make it 2/3 the same, as I just look at that, these aren't the only DRF applications that you've done this year. So you've done a bunch of them over the whole year. So just looking at 3 and going, well, let's do 2/3 of those 3 isn't necessarily looking at all of them. And I know that the heat pump one, that 2,000 for a heat pump, that is similar to money you've given to other organisations for heat pumps. So staff have looked right across and tried to do it in an equal kind of manner over time.
That's kind of
And
why
I
I
guess,
asked.
often the decision, tell me if I'm not correct, but am I right in saying that often the decision is based on our contribution is enough to make the thing happen,
totally,
and the rest of the funds might come from somewhere else, but ours is often the tipping point to get each of those projects underway.
That makes sense.
So on that basis, I guess it feels to me like the board might be happy to approve the funding at the recommended levels. And I'll take those as, I won't go through those in detail here, but at the recommended levels here. And if that's the case, is there somebody that wants to move that?
Does anyone know where this recreational sports club is going to get the rest of the money? Has the council got any idea where that rest of the money is going to come from?
For the mural?
No, for the heat pump.
They've got funds in hand. I understand they have funds in hand.
Oh, okay. So it's not going to be a yes or no sort of scenario.
No.
Okay. No, that's okay then. Yeah.
Okay, that's fine.
Staff wouldn't leave a group in a position where they get a little bit and then have to go fishing. Usually it's the last bit.
This is a top up sort of
Yeah.
stuff.
We're not going to give them money to cut a hole in the wall for the heat pump.
I'm sure I'm sure it would. I'm sure they would.
So on that basis, do you want to move, Howard?
I don't know. I don't stand up and make myself counted.
Well, is there somebody that would like to move the staff recommendations for those? Nigel, and seconded by Asa. All those in favour?
Yes.
Right.
Anyone against? No abstentions, so that is done.
Cool.
And we now move to the community board area report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So just whizzing through the area report, you see a lovely picture there of the Pigeon Bay kitchen. They're very resourceful, the Pigeon Bay Hall Committee. Do a great job. Youth Development Fund, you have in the meantime since your last meeting approved some funding for Charlie to head overseas. What else? The dog exercise area trial. I know there was quite a bit of feedback, so we're looking forward to that coming to the board at some stage with an analysis and some suggestions and things. What else? The TIF, the Tourism Infrastructure Fund. Big thank you to the Little River Wairua Community Trust, the Little River Railway Station Trust, and the Little River Craft Station Trust for providing very short notice support letters for that TIF fund application to go in. I'm not sure what the timeframe is around on hearing back, and I'm not really holding my breath. But in the meantime, there is still work progressing on making some improvements to the water supply and the water issues at those toilets in the background. So that's going on anyway.
Now there's on this next one,
Yep.
We've got to confirm our representative liaison positions across ADP.
Yep.
Aotearoa Community Health Trust and Summit Road Authority and Society. Yes.
Ecuador district promotions. Ecuador and district promotions, we both have SF and Lynn as the representatives that was asked for the board to consider positions both still. Ecuador Community Health Trust, when we did the external organisations appointments, we were told it was no longer needed and then it came back, so we need to appoint. And Summit Road Authority and Society, just confirmation that tomorrow because Lynn was going to be society, but I think we've had a discussion.
Summit Road, yeah, it's just, I mean, it's just practical. Yeah, yeah.
Okay, so on those three, ADP number 1, we've got both SF and Lynn on that currently, and the question is, do we keep it like that or do we drop to 1?
Well, SF's actually on the board,
right?
So possibly to, I guess, to mitigate any conflicts of interest, it might be better to make.
Maybe we should ask them.
Yeah, we agreed to stay on the board. So that was the initial decision that we agreed to. Unless, is there any reason that if someone is on a board that they can't be nominated?
Well, no, not at all. I just thought sometimes you're like I'm involved with the French festival. I've got to be very careful when I can. But if someone was a liaison to that, I think they would have more scope. Is that right?
Wasn't it a case of if he's very clear about his conflicts, then he can be both?
Yeah. And we do have that in another place where there's a board member who's a member of a trust and is also the liaison with that trust. That's up to each of you to be really clear about that, any conflicts.
Is that me?
No, and
oh, sorry,
I'm so worried.
I was thinking
you wouldn't be the
Well, you don't only no, cheers.
So I guess I guess it's just about being absolutely transparent with that dual role and front-footing it, because the risk there is that perceived or actually the potential for conflict is much greater if you're sitting in 2 seats.
And it's the perception of that by the public. It's the perception that's often the most difficult bit.
So what is the question?
So the question is that the board is happy to confirm those positions, but also that member, in this case ASIF, with a dual role on that ADP board, is 100% comfortable about the increased risk by occupying 2 positions on a board, by being a liaison to a board that you are also separately a member of.
Are you going to embarrass this board at a future date by conflict of interest? Yeah. Like certain politicians.
And over and above that, just are you comfortable with operating at that increased level of risk?
Yes, of course. Otherwise, I wouldn't bring it here.
I like the fact it's 2 there, because adding weight to the ADP, and I think ADP need all the support they can get.
And
okay, and Lynn, separately, your
No, I'm comfortable, but Nigel does raise a point. It is tricky. Sometimes you can't speak into something you want to at those meetings.
Yeah.
So just as long as you're okay with it.
Oh yeah. And the decision is individual. In this case, it's me. So I think if that is the only reason, I think it's not a valid reason. I'm comfortable, and unless.
How's the public going to perceive the conflict of interest?
We
all have conflict of interest at some stage somehow.
So, and it is the nature of living and being active in small communities.
So
and having lots of different interests and
it's like
we want to get involved.
We have, like Nigel is involved in more community groups than I am in Accra.
Oh, you
know, like it's really hard. It's sometimes you are individual, you are part of so many groups.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
keep that balance. It's up to you.
Yeah.
That's my understanding.
Yeah, absolutely. And so I guess it's just that having an increased consciousness, both that for you particularly on that board, but also for the board, that there is that dual role there. And for Lynn as a fellow liaison to that group, then there may also be opportunity, there may be times when, as that will say, Lynn should answer this.
Let's do
dual role.
I think yes, it's getting a bit complicated. So to make it simple, I'll just sit down. Okay. Yes.
So.
Oh, I don't want to feel like you.
No, that's all right. Yeah.
But are you suggesting you sit down as the board liaison?
As a board liaison.
Right. So we would go to having you on the ADP as a board member of an ADP board member, Lynn on ADP as a community board liaison. So ADP still have the advantage of two.
I don't think they will have advantage of having two community liaisons, but in this case, it will be just one.
You don't think you've managed to?
In that case, no, because I won't be.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a much clearer arrangement. It's much less complicated, and it puts you in a much stronger position and clearer position for everybody.
The reason I brought it in this was in earlier December, we discussed and we agreed. Yeah. And my name was wrote down by mistake or somehow. How did we just wanted to clear that? How did they got out of that?
Yeah.
Because we didn't talk unless someone else remembers we having this discussion like this.
Yeah.
There was a mistake.
Yeah. The giant spreadsheet of 7.
Yeah.
And an operation that size is always going to be one or two casualties, but that I think if that's the position we've got to today, where Lynn retains the board liaison role, and you are a board member of ADP, then if everybody's happy with that, then that's probably a good. Do we need to move and second that? With all of these?
When you're doing
Oh,
say that it's confirming.
Okay. Did you have a?
Yeah, I've just got a real quick question. This is the way it's written here is Summit Road Authority and Society. To the uninitiated, that would look like a single organisation.
Okay, so can we make those full names? Yeah.
So the next one is the Aparoa Community Health Trust, which is an organisation that we didn't previously think we needed to have a liaison to, and has now been requested for one.
I thought we'd made that decision.
There was, I wasn't there for.
Oh, I don't know.
No, this is the one where.
This is.
It wasn't in the 12th of December list.
Right.
Well, I've resigned, so.
It was.
Yeah, and they thought it was still Nigel who was the past representative, but it's Asif who is the representative of the board on it.
Okay, so it's just confirming that for the board. And so everybody's happy with that?
Yes, indeed.
Yes. And then moving to the Summit Road Authority and the Summit Road Society, is that right?
It's two different things.
Yeah.
Confirming that Tyrone will be here. Just like
Wonderful.
Right.
2 more for Tyrone.
Well, one more, because you're already one of them, weren't you?
Yeah, I'm on the authority.
Oh, sorry, yeah, on the
Sorry,
Society.
Tyrone is the council's appointment to the authority. Effie is the board appointment to the authority.
Right.
Okay. And then the society.
Now it's Tyrone, not Lynn.
Yep, I'm the board's liaison to it.
Everybody's happy with that?
Everybody happy.
Excellent. So then moving to, or have I skipped something out of that? No, I haven't. 3.4.7. Are you finished on TIF?
Absolutely. Yep.
Then we've got 3.4.7.
Yep, the local government conference.
Lovely. So this is just confirming members who will be attending, which is luckily in Christchurch.
Yeah.
And currently we have Nigel, Lynn and Kathy for 1 day. Anybody else? No, good, happy, great.
We expect a song and dance back afterwards, telling us what went on.
Well, you want a bloody report.
Yeah, so it's got to be as good as Hamilton.
I do reports that
We can do it in mime.
Nothing's as good as Hamilton the musical.
I'm a Bowie fan. So yeah, getting that.
Imagine if we could tell after that was history like that. Anyway, now we move to the. Do you take us through advice now, or do we?
Yeah, you can just go, yep, done all that.
Okay, so for all of those things that we've just talked about in the area report, can I have a mover? And a second. I'm happy to move it. Lynn's happy to second it. All those in favour? Any against? Any abstentions? Against?
Can't abstain.
Oh, abstaining.
I don't know enough information, so I can't make it.
Okay, so Howard's abstaining, but everybody else said yes.
Would you like an abstention?
That's worrying.
Would you like?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
There you go. Didn't abstain from answering the question. So
It doesn't really matter too much. I just don't know enough information, so.
we now move to elected members'
Yeah,
information.
you've got 6 minutes.
We've got 6 minutes to get through that.
Oh.
So that's 48 seconds each. But we can, if we need to, go so slightly longer. Who wants?
I'll go real fast.
Yeah.
So, actually, well, Kathy was there too. So just moving along with the antisocial road users stuff. So I had a really productive meeting on Friday with a bunch of council staff, community members. I was there, Kathy was there, Tracy made it eventually, but it was organised by Tracy McClellan's office. Really good. So we've got some clear actions out of that. Involves a lot of engaging with Rākaihautū, but like that's moving along, so I'm sure everyone's quite keen to hear about that. I have received quite a bit of, there's a bit of concern, and you might have picked up on this as well, Lynn, around the road around at is it Caton's?
Oh, Caton's Bay. Caton's, yeah, how did I say
Caton's
that?
Bay. Yeah, so just noting that.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if there's something that we need to do out of that, like contact Rākaihautū to say that there's a bit of community concern about the quality of the road around there, maybe some safety concerns or something like that.
I noticed it was repaired. It's been repaired again.
Yes, yeah. Oh, whether they were on, see, we got that good brief from the council roading staff. And saying that April was the cut-off for doing any roading, and that was right on the edge. They were still doing stuff. Rākaihautū was still doing stuff. So whether that affected it, but I need to have advice from Rākaihautū to be able to go back to the community and say, so this is what's happened.
So we know, like, well, what's the next step? Like, we're just putting it into the mixer, I guess.
Yeah. Sorry, I actually took over.
No, that's all right. That's okay. Well, we'll bring when it comes back to you, because we'll keep it moving along. But just regarding the antisocial road user meeting, I've got some correspondence from Tracy's office that I'd like to table at this meeting. So I've got it in email format. So if I forward it to, I literally got it like 30 seconds ago.
The antisocial users group is coming to the next briefing on the 26th of June.
Right.
Can that correspondence be included in that agenda then?
The antisocial users group, like the people that drive and make all the noise, they come in as an invitation.
Geez, I got it written now.
They all show up too.
With the loud
Yeah.
Unless we table it,
Yeah, the meeting only happened on Friday, so.
So it's been quite a quick turnaround.
So that sounds like something for the July agenda, but it's good to get it in there. Yeah. And that's everything from you?
Yep.
Happy birthday. Nigel.
Happy birthday to you. Not a lot. It's good. A couple of my big subjects are coming up, obviously, with what's going on with BP Meats and New Cottage. I'm really excited about getting that briefing. And just a comment around the weed being picked up on the beach by the school on the front page of the Agro Mail. This area just down here was 80 cubic metres of the kids picked up, and sort of highlighted the need to have a review around, a briefing around what the activities are of the staff in that area and what to perceive as they can, blah, blah, some sort of briefing in that area, because that has been a subject that I've tried to bring up in the past, including the cleaning up down here, that ended up all over the recreation ground. I don't know where it would go, whether we could get a briefing as to what happens here. We do get a lot of noise around road trim and stuff, who's doing what. I don't know, it seems to be something that we could, good, bad, or indifferent, let's have the conversation, you know.
Yeah, I think it's probably a good, because it's obviously an issue here, but it's got a lot of bays and beaches, so.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. And there's that hole in the footpath is still there around the breakwater. It's been snap solved. And I have to say, some of the feedback I'm getting from people that have done a lot of snap solves is, it's going through an offshore mechanism, and some of the feedback and that they've given up trying to do them. So that's lost its audience a wee bit, I think. So
Have you done one yourself?
Sorry?
Have you done one yourself?
No, I haven't. Other people have. I mean, should I need
to? Well, the ticket numbers are always really helpful.
Okay. All right. Okay.
That's you?
Sorry, that's me for now. Yep. Good. Yep.
Kathy.
Cool. Just following our community Facebook page, there was something about plants being given to community to put on their berm. So I think it might have just been a bit of a communication with maybe the household that's getting the plant to have it, and then just talking to neighbors on how these trees just appeared on berms. So it must have something to do with plant a tree to mitigate climate change. And then a contractor came and just marked out berms. So it's just a bit of communication there, but someone in the community is following up how it's come about, who's doing it, and the idea behind it. So just some comms around, why a tree just appears on your berm kind of thing. Yeah. And whether the household will approve of it too, because when your garden just gets sprayed or your berm gets sprayed. So just kind of following up and see if that's a thing. Keep Christchurch Beautiful has their awards in August.
Oh, you won some of those.
Yeah. So they'll send it out to the community board members to promote. They've got 2 schools from the Peninsula involved, Governor's Bay and Diamond Harbour. And I might help with sort of visiting the school and helping with their school awards and that sort of stuff, because they're always looking for volunteers. There were 2 graffiti things I noticed, and one had come through about graffiti it was on a public, something Rākaihautū got involved in, but their maintenance schedule is way in advance, like September. And it was something that a community person snapped and solved. And so there's a Rākaihautū is doing it, isn't it?
Rākaihautū used to be one of the fastest at getting rid of the graffiti. So sometimes you snap solve and it would disappear on the same day.
Right.
Now they've shifted.
This is Norwich Key, yeah?
Yeah. They've changed the way they're doing it, so they're not coming back to Littleton until September.
Yeah.
With graffiti, by which time that graffiti artist would have retired. But the suggestion was that potentially the community board could write a letter to them asking why it's changed.
Right.
On the 26th, the spring thing, we have the graffiti team.
Oh, they're coming back.
So.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then on the other side of the graffiti, I saw someone actually removing posters that someone was putting on walls. So I walked past and it was like, I really don't like people putting posters on this wall, so I go around and remove them. So, so anyhow, it was like, talk to graffiti team, are you going to snap and solve? And we talked through the whole process and stuff. But and then Whakaora Healthy Harbour had their meeting. It was very productive. And they talked about, lots of great stuff in the harbour. And the Cass Bay AGM happened, Cass Bay residents, and still on the cards is Steadfast, and they had a good presentation around the anti-social road abuses as well, so they were well in support. Yeah, those were the big things.
Excellent, thank you. Howard?
It's another request regarding traffic management on Jetty Road in Governor's Bay. Been a couple of near misses apparently. This has already been brought to the council's notice previously. I assume it's in the process, but I thought I'd bring it back up again.
Howard, they had written one particular memo for the board. Unfortunately, there was one section that I felt needed to be replied to about it, so they'll be running a message to be within the week. So the board will have the information shortly, and the trust. The Jetty Trust.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, okay, so information's coming. Sweet, thank you.
Was that you?
Yep.
Easy. Essa?
Yeah, thank you. A few things just want to bring your attention. There is a perception in the community that during the DMP process, community board nominated or handpicked individuals and groups for Christchurch NZ to work with, and that is for some reason coming from Christchurch NZ. So they have mentioned that the community board nominated people or organizations we have worked with. So few businesses that would have liked to be involved and they couldn't because of this decision.
Yep.
So I don't know how that.
Yep, so you did do that as a
Yeah.
board, at a board briefing with Christchurch NZ, they came along and had a list of suggested stakeholders. This is for the stakeholder group, I think you're talking about. Yep,
for the
yep.
workshops.
Yep. That was at Little River, with my memory, which isn't always good, but.
Yes, that's correct.
Yeah, Little River, and you agreed as a board, you went through and agreed with those names.
And the reason other businesses weren't invited is based on that recommendation by community board.
I think, did you add a couple, did you?
I added a
suggest
few.
couple of
Yeah.
people?
Yes, they did ask
I think there
more,
were some-
it was open, so it wasn't an exclusive group.
Yeah.
My understanding was that it was going to be added to.
Yeah, but it's still, they only ever wanted a restricted number though, like it wasn't like all and sundry. I mean, it was part of the process.
It's about the
We tried to have
So we
it.
didn't control all the stakeholders.
No, it wasn't.
No, but you did nominate. I mean, that was the
And
opportunity.
two of my nominees just decided they didn't want to go, which has really upset me. One was representing the Arts Council. Obviously, but-
And
So the perception is true.
about the consent for landfill, land work that is happening in Pātaka. Just people want to know whether that work has been consented.
Oh, yeah, that's part of the wastewater program.
Is it
the local?
Yeah,
No,
that
no,
work,
no,
the
no, no.
landfill work that is happening.
It's digging out for the, yeah, that's all been consented. That's part of the wastewater program, agro wastewater. Do you want to need a briefing on it maybe?
So have they logged, so someone wants to know if something's been consented. Have
Yes.
they logged a request to ask that?
They've asked Essa.
Well,
So I'm asking.
well, then you need to log a request to
Yeah,
ask
log a
that, because
request.
that's all that
So-
we would be doing, and
Yeah.
so we don't
Okay.
do that for individual members.
So we can,
So log
someone can
request.
tell you about that
Yeah.
today.
And something interesting that I thought was
Sorry,
really,
I'm just
Sorry.
really aware of time.
Yeah.
So is there anything?
Just one more thing, and then I'll just leave the other for later. About targeted rates that is happening, that happened for the health center. So that project has completed. Why those are still part of the rate? Targeted rate for the health. So the question is like that. That project has been completed. So why we are still paying those
Oh,
rates?
so you mean because the hospital, because it's built,
It's
why are you
built,
still
yeah.
paying? Because the community, this is my understanding, just, it might not be completely accurate, but I think process-wise, it's probably fair enough, is that the community had made a commitment to fund a share, $1.3 million, something like that. And so that was a commitment, it's like a liability or debt that they committed to. And on that basis, the buildings were done, but that debt is still needing to be paid. So just because the building's there doesn't mean it's all paid
can I
for.
just liaison, can I comment on that?
Yep.
That they, That is ahead of time, that debt being paid back ahead of time and on the cusp of completion. And at what point does that affect the rates? That's a question I would probably want to know. And I'll probably ask you after you've been given that information.
Yep, thank you.
Thanks very much. Lynn.
Following on from the Captain's Day query from Tyrone, that kind of kicked off a little bit on Facebook, and I just asked people to get back to me if they have contacted Waka Kotahi with any project numbers or anything like that. So I'm happy to collect that. I haven't received any so far, but happy to do that so that we can move that forward. But also would like advice about, steps of the community and getting that fixed permanently. Second thing, I had a lovely meeting with Dr. Lorna Martin, who's the chair of the Waitaha Primary Health, and the CEO, Bill Eschenbach. So they're an external organisation that I've been put forward to liaison, and they will get back to me in regards to that placement there. And lastly, we talked briefly when we went to the community hall in Little River last time we met about the trip hazards that are outside. I've got a number there that we can follow up. That was done several months ago, so I'd love the staff to follow that up and find out what the process is.
Oh, these are things on the road. Those
those concrete bumps that are trickiest. Yeah. So that's me.
You think some lighting would have got there?
Something.
Costs.
Yeah.
Somewhere.
Okay, if anything, I was going to raise one thing has been raised by other members, and that is that the Canterbury Street, you're all over Canterbury Street.
Well, I mean, over it as much as I can be, but like it's.
I think everyone's over it.
Yeah.
The leak that just keeps.
I've asked for a further update on it because I mean there was some. Yeah, I mean they were doing lots of different things to try and determine the source of it, which doesn't seem to have proven fruitful. So I'm really concerned about the danger.
At some stage. Okay.
Yeah. It's probably a nice ring. Oh yeah, God, it's a lot.
But there's lots of other quite major repair work underway on under road infrastructure. So maybe they'll get to that. Okay, so that is the
Just before we finish, we said we're going to bring up election signs, being council.
Sorry, thank you for reminding me. So there was a follow-up to CCC, the Electoral Commission, and Waka Kotahi.
I have
And council.
Electoral officer. She has said. I've had a message back from the electoral officer since our public forum person. She said she's been waiting for Waka Kotahi to come back to her, and she's tried again this morning. All going well guidance should be online this week. It is 9 weeks before the start of voting until the day before the election, which is the general election, will be from the 31st of July to the 13th of October. So she's on to Waka Kotahi about the exercise.
Okay, so it's already been followed up.
Yeah, and then I guess it becomes a matter of individuals snapsing solving if they see things that they don't, which is generally what happens in elections.
Well, in Dunedin, the council actually approached all the representatives and said you've got to remove it. So I think Dunedin's efforts are proactive is actually a lot better sort of response.
Yeah, but that may have been as a result of people complaining to them. So.
Oh, it is. Well, we have complaints now. Councils have complaints now, so they need to be proactive.
So that sounds like that one's resolved component on the way. Lovely. And then just before we close the meeting, I was going to raise there is some peer training.
No, you're doing that.
Okay, not doing it yet. So that's the end of the meeting. So we'll close with our closing cut here.
Uru here, une here, ki te uru tapanui, kia wātia, kia māma, te nākau, te tinana, te wairua, i te ara, takata,
koera e rono, whakaria ake ki runga, kia tina, tina, huere taiki.
Yeah. I've got that better.
Got that?